Welcome back to House of a Thousand Books, your horror book podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Brody, along with my other co-hosts slash good friends.
My name is Stephanie, but friends call me Steph.
My name is Dan.
I'm Gabby.
And I am Steven or SJ, whatever you prefer. I'm excited to be back for another month, another good read, fall time. This is September. We might be recording this in October, but it is September's book choice. And I'm just happy it's fall. All the spooky vibes, full throttle.
Yes, and off of what SJ said about recording this in October, I'm going to go ahead and blame it on us all being at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. We just came back. If you haven't been, I would highly recommend it. This month, we are reading The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, which, if you don't know about this book, it is actually a retelling of Stephen King's Carrie.
And it's also a YA, which I thought was a choice. We never read any YA yet in this book club, so that was the first young adult technical pick. Although I always find like that means nothing. Like some of the most fucked up shit I've ever read in a book is in a young adult novel.
Young adult horror is definitely something you should not skip. Don't judge it just because there's a YA on it.
Honestly, what's the difference, really?
I think it's about how much, like how explicit they can get. Like the content doesn't have to be modified. It's like the delivery more so.
Oh, interesting.
I think technically it's supposed to be like the main characters of the target audience has to be like 18 to 20 something.
Okay.
I think also just like sometimes just the way certain things are like over explained and just a little like surface level. I think that's where I saw like the YA in the book.
Absolutely. So we're going to get started with a more of like a spoiler-free kind of synopsis of this story. For those of you listening who may have not read it yet and don't want it to be spoiled. That being said, like we've just been saying, it is a Carrie retelling. So if you don't know the plot of that yet, I don't know what to tell you. So just a really brief synopsis. This is a story that actually takes place set in 2014 in Springville, Georgia, this really small town, which is still indebted to its old traditions and quotes. Traditions are just fucked up things anyways. But our main character in this story is not Carrie. It is Madison, Washington, or Maddy. And something which is a big theme and a big element in this story is Maddy is half black and half white. And so a lot of what kind of causes the bullying, which starts the classic Carrie tale, is because of that, because she's living in a very non-progressive and simple-minded Southern town.
Nice party.
Thanks.
Yeah. What were your expectations going in? Spoiler free, obviously. Where was your head at?
Well, I can start because I'm the one who chose this book. I chose this book because September is my birthday month. Virgos unite. And after just kind of hearing the synopsis of the book, what I think maybe Steven explained to me what it was, but just do my own research. I loved the Carrie story in general. So that like kind of modern tale on it onto specific certain, I don't know, events that I think are very telling of the time now just were really interesting to me. That's why I don't know. So I guess I went into it not really expecting, not knowing to expect, just knowing it was just going to be different from Carrie, which I think I was most excited about.
And I'm happy you picked it because as we said in like the pilot, the roots of this podcast was to diversify our reading and not just read Stephen King. I thought this was like the perfect way to still sneak that in a little because we get a woman author, we get a new kind of genre of horror, a new like target audience of horror. It's obviously a story about a person of color, so I feel like that is not often represented very at the forefront of horror, TV, books, movies, what have you. So for all those reasons and the fact that we still get to like wink, wink, nudge, nudge to Stephen King was like the perfect pick, I think.
I mean, just going off of that, like I was really excited for this when I found out like what it was about, because like you said, like it gets in that Stephen King, but I'm personally not like a huge fan of the way that he writes women anyways.
Mhm.
Surprise, surprise, he's a man. And so I was really excited to read this book written from someone who is a woman who probably can understand this story maybe at a better level that he can.
Very true. That's a good point.
Well said.
I feel like I differ from you guys in the fact that my touch point with Carrie is already a lot more recent. Really, the only touch point that I have is that one essay. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, the original, Sissy Spacek, all the way.
That's I've only watched it once. And then like everyone knows about the iconic scenes. But again, really that's all I knew about Carrie. So I was really excited to read this because I am kind of on a Stephen King wave as of past year. And Brody, I didn't realize this until you said it, that he just writes women so not great, that having something where a woman's voice is so important. I was very excited.
And like at the most basic level, like this story in both versions is like, it makes me excited because while the main characters go through such unbelievably difficult times, they are so badass. And the people that are awful to them, you know, are going to get what they deserve in the end.
Mhm.
So I was really excited for that as well.
That kind of leads me to another question I had, and I feel like this is still spoiler free. So we all know the Carrie story. It's canon. Like we know what happens. We know the prom. The book cover has that imagery right here, right? You see a young girl with the crown covered in blood.
I wouldn't know.
No dust jacket.
Aw.
Wait, that's funny stuff. Well, sorry, spoiler. If you had the dust jacket. Reverse. My question was, you go into this book looking at the cover, knowing how it ends. Did that color your read of it at all? Because again, like we know what happens. We know it's a good for her in Carrie, right? That's the whole point. How did that, knowing how it ends, affect your reading experience throughout?
Let me say this. So similar to Gabby, my touch point was watching the 2013 movie when I was 12 or something, and I didn't remember most of it. So going into it, the only ending I know is like, the famous recreation that like shows parody all the time is like, blood's gonna fall on her, she's gonna go crazy. But I don't remember all the details. So I was still excited to see like not only the details that I have never read or remember, but how this author would change them. And I knew the general ending, but I didn't know where she was going to take it. So it was still intriguing for me.
I think for me, like, because that it is such an iconic scene and it's been portrayed so many times, I was just really excited to get there, I think. But at the same time, it was such a compelling story from start to finish that I was really involved from the beginning, which I think is just a testament of how well it was written. Like I said, like I was going into it for the last scene, really, but I was hooked as soon as the story started. So that's kind of how I felt about it. I think it could have been bad. Like I think it could have led me to like just really only pay attention for the ending part, but don't do that if you read it. Read everything and take it in.
All right. That's kind of like a really natural segue to like get into spoilers. Do we feel good?
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. So, listeners, if you have not read The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson, stop fucking listening.
Oh my God.
Or unless you're a badass and you want all the spoilers, because some people are into that. So, if you want to read the book spoiler free, which I highly recommend, pause us right here, pick up The Weight of Blood, come back to us when you're done, and stick around for the full discussion. If you have read and you're here for all the spoilers, we're about to give them to you.
Yeah, so let's start with the canon event, right? So Carrie.
Nope.
Nope,
Maddy.
not Carrie. Maddy. I'm so sorry. Maddy is at school and the water falls on her and everyone finds out that she's black because her hair kinks up. And there's a video that is recorded of someone throwing pencils into her hair. It gets caught by the news. The school goes under fire and it just showing the light of all the racism that's going on.
Also, that scene is where she like uses her powers for the first time. I feel like that was really like the springboard.
Yes.
And I think I tabbed it. As they're throwing like all the pencils and stuff in her hair, it's such a throwaway line, but it says they're all laughing. They're always laughing at her, and her skin is burning and her pulse starts to beat harder. And you think, okay, she's just nervous. Everyone's laughing at her. But I don't think that's what's happening.
I think it's anger.
I tabbed that too.
It's boiling. Like that's the boil. That's the simmer on the pot right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on page 11 of the book. So like that is, I think, our springboard. Like, here we go. There's something here. Like this girl, something's going on.
Yeah, what a good segue
Mhm.
to introduce the whole entire story.
Yeah, and she ends up raising all the chairs and tables off the ground. I think the windows shatter.
They think it's an earthquake.
They think it's an earthquake, yeah.
And then everyone gets a headache afterwards.
Everyone gets a headache.
Only the young ones.
Yeah, but no one's phones work to record it.
Mhm.
Right.
Like, how genius is that? They record up until the moment it all happens, because then mysteriously everyone's phones stop working.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously there's like an earthquake that goes on, and you would think that people would want to talk about the earthquake, but all that everyone's talking about is Maddy and the fact that she's Black. And I think I tabbed it where it's like you would think that they would be talking about an earthquake that's isolated into one classroom where the classroom above didn't even feel it. You guys aren't going to talk about that. It's like, no.
Oh
It's the fact
yeah.
that your classmate that you thought was white is actually half Black, and you want to ridicule her now. It's just already setting the view of this town in how they perceive race.
Mhm. Yeah, the hair thing, like that just really, I think, sets the tone to the
Mhm.
level of racism that it's already jaw-dropping, and it's like, this is what we're gonna be dealing with for the next 400 pages.
But then there's a nice teacher who is just like, we got to nip this at the butt, like on the side of Maddy.
Miss Morgan.
Miss Morgan.
Or Mrs. Morgan, yes.
Wasn't there a teacher that was nice to Carrie?
Yep.
Mhm.
Did you know what was really sad too? All Maddie is worried about is her dad. She's like, oh no, what's dad gonna think? And she's like, fuck. Because the one thing, and we find out a little bit later on, but like dad tells her the worst thing that could ever happen is someone find out that she's half Black. And that narrative has been like ingrained in her since she was so little. She was coddled. She wasn't allowed out. She wasn't in school until middle school, I think, like something later, until CPS showed up and forced the dad to send her. So I thought that was heartbreaking. Like, all this awful shit is happening to this girl, and all she's worried about is, what is dad going to do to me when I get home and he hears about this?
And this
Mhm.
happens throughout the story. There are so many times where like she's like just trying to live her life, and in the back of her mind she's like, what about dad? What about papa? Like this, that, and then breaks my heart. Like when she's at the Dairy Queen and she can't even take a second to enjoy herself because she's like, I'm gonna get caught. Like, what's he gonna do when he finds out about this?
Mhm.
Like, this poor girl.
I think it adds a layer of fucked up because, not to constantly compare the whole time, but in Carrie the original, her mom is just religious and outdated, so like she wears like outdated clothes, and that's why the bullying stems. But this one is like a whole new level of like, yeah, she doesn't fit in, but like racism. It's like, oh, this is fucked.
Yeah, and then I think another even added layer, it's like Black people's hair is policed so heavily in society. So like to have that be the thing, like the worst thing that could possibly happen is your pin straight hair to kink up. Like, what a white, disgusting viewpoint to have, that like that hair is not acceptable. You cannot ever let anyone see that. And like that's her biggest worry.
We're also like touching on like how other Black people in the school are reacting to her too.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't know if they're exactly like welcoming her with open arms either. And it's very hard for her to just kind of like gauge like, this, like, I'm Black, this is bad. But also like no one's, until like maybe toward the end, which we'll get into, but like it's, for instance, like on page 32, when Kendrick's like, how did we not recognize like one of our own? It's from all angles, not just the white students.
Even like the Black students don't even fully recognize the full situation of her father forcing her to pretend to be this way, because I think it brings up, understandably, like a lot of negative feelings from the Black students, because from their perspective it looks like, oh, she thinks it's so bad to be Black that she's pretended her whole life to be white.
And also she doesn't recognize that privilege in their eyes. They're like, we can't pass and protect ourselves by passing. And she got to all this time. She's escaped all the bullying. Like she got bullied for just like being weird, but she never got bullied for her race, while they all did. So they were like, how dare she now want our sympathy? While we were getting bullied this whole time, getting racially profiled, and she was able to pass, so she was safe. I think Callie, Kendrick's little sister, has a lot to say about that, which I found really, really interesting.
Definitely, that's later on, and it connects to the future events. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so then from there, we kind of learn about Wendy and Jules, who are two of the students in the classroom and participating, I believe, in the pencil throwing, at least Jules is.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious because we actually learn of them in the very first scene when they're in gym class and the rain comes. But for me, like, I kind of got the vibe, rightfully so. I think that they're like the popular girls. They're like on the cheer squad and clearly very popular. Obviously, they both play a very large role in the story. And then from there, after the classroom scene, we meet Kendrick or Kenny, who is Wendy's boyfriend. Kenny is also Black. Interestingly, since he is like the star football player of the school, he is treated so differently.
He's the Troy Bolton.
He's the Troy Bolton.
I truly just saw Troy Bolton.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But he's treated so differently, but at the same time, not really, because I think that he is treated differently, but I think he still deals with so much of the racism. He deals with it in a much different way of ignoring. And yeah, I found that really interesting. I don't know about you guys, just like the way that his so-called friends would talk about race in front of him as if like he doesn't feel anything.
Talking about kind of what we were talking about before with Maddy getting found out, right? And all the other POC students kind of hating her for it. I think it's so interesting then, because then we really get to know Kenny, not Kendrick, because Kendrick's too hard to say. So Kenny, and he's code switching very obviously. They make a lot of references like he doesn't talk Black. That's right off the book. Like all these things. So he's getting praised for kind of being white passing, although not visibly, not physicality wise. He is code switching to be accepted. They all call him his brother, right? And he's always like, no, but he never says anything. He never wants to make it about race because that's what his dad kind of taught him. So while Maddy is getting ridiculed for code switching the whole time and passing the whole time, Kenny gets praised for it. His whole career, he's praised for being able to assimilate. And they're like, he doesn't act Black. Like, why can't everyone just be like him? And I thought that really frustrated me, that this girl was penalized when this boy was praised.
Well, I think it plays into the well-known thing of like Black people are accepted if they're really good at sports and can entertain. You know, it's like play basketball for us, play football for us, but a nerdy girl who is outdated, they were bullying her before she was even revealed to be. So I think it plays into that.
Totally. Can I switch gears to a lighter note really fast? So the author prefaced the book saying just like how much of a horror fan she is. Did you guys pick up on all the little horror Easter eggs all throughout the book?
Like some of them. I feel like I got most of the King ones. There's a lot of Stephen King ones.
There are a lot of Stephen King references if you're a Stephen King fan, but all like the side characters, all their last names were like famous horror people. Let me see. It's early on in the book and I tabbed it. Like one of the girls gets introduced as Allie Kruger. The coach at the gym class is Coach Bates. Another girl later on gets introduced as Jackie Torrance. Jules Marshall. We have Wendy Quinn, so like Harley Quinn, Allie Kruger, Coach Bates. So I was like, that is so cool. Like she just slipped them all on in there. And there's more that could. The podcaster is Tanya King. I was like, what is this girl doing? Be for real.
Yeah.
Be for real, Tiffany.
They talk about pyrokinesis.
Yeah, they talk, yeah. Just referencing fire
I literally
starter.
opened my book to this page and it says here they're on a train and like all the cell like service goes off and the train conductor called it a dead zone. I was just like, she's really not being sly here. But the ones who know.
I think it's on the podcast when they're talking about Maddy and they say pyrokinesis is a thing Stephen King made up in a book. That doesn't happen. Like they were interviewing someone, but no, baby, it happens.
It's like the first expert that they have on the podcast about
He's
telekinesis.
a pyro. Yeah.
That guy's a nut.
And then the girl, Tanya King, is like, you're not going to convince me that that's real just because Stephen King made it up in a novel. I was like, damn.
So meta.
That's your dad right there, Tanya King. I had another question, like kind of early on. We get alluded to that her mother obviously is gone. We assume she was a Black woman, hence why her daughter is mixed. But the way that Maddy explains it, it says well, Daddy told me, Papa, whatever she calls him. Ew, Daddy felt gross to
Daddy.
say. Anyway,
Daddy.
that her mom died in childbirth or something like vague and shady. So immediately I wrote down, what happened to the mother? Like I was like, oh, the dad like killed her. Immediate first thought. Did anyone else have any like inklings?
Yeah, I just knew she wasn't dead, or whatever he was telling her wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
I had a theory going. And I'm mad that didn't come true, but also glad because incest. So I thought that Kenny's mom, Kenny and Kaylee, their mom was also Carrie's mom.
Maddy.
Maddy. Maddy's mom. I'm not pulling this from thin air, guys. So the first is when she comes home after being invited to prom, and she tells her dad that, you know, she's gonna be going to prom, and she says Kendrick, and he goes like, you're not going to prom with some black boy or something along those lines. And so my immediate thought was, how does he know he's black? And Maddy says the same thing. He's like, how does he know he's black? So I was like, that means that he must already know Kenny. So there must be some sort of lock to the bank memory.
That's fair.
I also tabbed every time they did the wrist pulse thing, because I saw already, I was like, okay, there's going to be something up with this, because whenever her powers happen, like, you know, her heart like jumps. And so I was like, okay, it's something to do with the heart. Like, it's going to definitely come up again. So I tabbed it the first time. Then it happened again, I think, when they were at prom. I think they did the wrist touch again. And then she does it again when she thinks that he dies. And then you find out later on that when the dad reveals everything about the mom, should I be talking about? Should we just... So when you find out about the mom and like he's revealing everything, he's like, my mom was sick with cancer, so we hired a nurse. And Kenny says that when he does the pulse check, he learned it from a mom who was a nurse.
Whoa.
I was like, oh, no way.
Wow.
And then you also find out that she gets her powers from her dad, so it wasn't even from her mom. So I was like, so they could definitely just be a normal kid, like fine. And then her name is Meryl. I think I tabbed it, and Maddie's mother's name is like Marielle, something like that, very close. And I was like, oh my god,
wow,
brother and sister. But it was nope.
Gabby presented that theory to me, and I obviously read the book already, so I was like, I didn't want to spoil, so I was like, okay. And then I was like, wait, is that what happened and I just missed it? Because all of your proof was solid.
Thank you.
I was like, maybe she is right, and maybe I missed something. Do they have the same mom? But no,
they don't.
Or do they? Dun dun dun. Read the sequel.
Well, because they say that the last time that they knew of the mom's whereabouts was in somewhere
South Carolina.
Yeah, a year before prom. And I was like, fuck. Okay, so could it be? It would have been a good theory.
Yeah, it was watertight.
I definitely did not pick up on that.
Yeah,
I always just love I love theories.
Or even when you pointed out to me that Kenny says his mom is a palm reader, and I was like, oh, she has powers.
Yeah,
maybe she is Maddie's mom.
He like jokes about it when they do the palm thing for the first time. He talks about his mom, and he's like, she always said she was like a psych palm reader, and I believed her.
I just assumed that Kenny was like enough of a like well-known kid in the community that like she could say his name, and the dad just like knew who he was.
Like
fair,
because everyone like
I mean, like small town Georgia, like the only thing they have going for them is football. So like I feel like that's the only thing anybody knows about.
And he's like supposed to go pro. Like he's a big deal.
Yeah. And he was like, wait,
people
how do you not know? Wait, do you not know what college you're going to?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you didn't see me do the hat picking, bro? Yeah, but I still hated Kenny. That being said, I hated every character really, except for Maddy.
You hated Kenny?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, he went on a really big self journey, I think, throughout the book. His arc alone was really interesting if we just focused on that.
I think his dad pushed the sport so hard because he was like, this is the only way my son will get any slight ounce of respect in this town, which doesn't make it okay. Like, he did not want to do any of the things that his dad was forcing him to, but yeah, Kenny started off, like Steven said, not calling his friends out and like being not the best, but then he learned from his sister and he learns
That's
from
true.
Maddy. He's not the worst. Come
I
on.
think it was everything was just too late, and it was just too much of like the what if, and
Mm,
maybe that was just ruminating in my brain too much because I also again read through this so fast. I was
Yeah.
reading at this at like 2.65, I think. I was speed reading through this so I could get it done on time. So to me, it was very fresh of him being an asshole. So maybe that's
Okay,
just
okay.
why.
I was trying to feel for Kenny. I also did not like Kenny. I was trying to feel for him. I really
Wow.
was.
Kenny hate.
Yeah, I did not like him. And then for a second I was like, okay, like he doesn't know any better, right? His dad has forced him to like be passing and for like, whatever, not to get into it. But then you see his sister who's like cool and progressive and
Mm,
liberal and running the Black Student Union is like, we need
Yeah.
to change, we need to rally, we need to protest. And I was like, yes, bitch, like there was no excuse for Kenny to turn out the way he did. If his sister was that badass.
well, can't you argue that she got that way because of like living in Kenny's shadow and her
Mm,
parents only ever caring about him and pushing him on the sports? She's like, how am I going to gain respect if I can't do that?
true.
Her dad wasn't even like proud of her that she like
Nope.
runs this Black Student
No, he
Union.
Oh,
hated
Like
he
that she did
he
hated
it.
hated
it.
it.
He was like, is that really necessary? Like, why draw attention?
She was the one that was like going against, I think, the norm of her
She
family.
was the invisible girl.
She literally was. No, I think there's a point where like she says that she's invisible, or they like the dad references the fact that he didn't even realize she was there at one point in the
Yeah.
book.
Son of steel and daughter of air.
I think it shows like those types of situations affect like generations of people. Like, I mean, I'm sure Kenny's parents, we didn't get a backstory on them, but it seems like they probably grew up in that town also. They probably learned to do the only thing that they felt that they could do to survive and get by with a lot of what Kenny was doing. I'm not sure about the mom. I can't speak for her because her character, it doesn't really come in that much of her feelings on it.
I wanted to point out they didn't grow up in that town. They weren't allowed to.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
you're
right.
right.
They recently moved.
That's
Uh-huh.
right.
So I think what you're hinting at, Brody, is like, again, like they had to code switch to survive. They know they're not wanted in that town. They're on the white side of town. So they
Mhm.
have to be like, we're just like you guys. We're just a normal family. Everything's good here to like literally protect themselves. So
Great.
yeah.
So back to the point. Why hate Kenny if that's if that was his
Ugh,
upbringing?
I
Is it
don't
really his
know. He just made
fault?
so many bad decisions.
It's also a
He
man.
tried to be good. I did say he had a character arc, so he did try to be good. And the ending, I mean, we'll do a real pick apart of the ending because we haven't even talked about the proms yet, and that's what we have to get into.
No, that's
But that ending, Kenny's ending, it's sad. I was like, fuck, that was awful. But anyway, let's talk about the proms then because that is the meat of the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we go back into chronological order, this kind of where we left off after the hair incident, we end up here where they're talking
The
about
beginning.
yeah.
Ah.
If we're trying to keep it, but so we get back and, like you guys said, the media, CNN, other media sources have picked up on this video of people harassing Maddy in class. And we then come to find out that this school each year has two separate proms, one for the white students and one for the Black students. Now, I had to keep checking back to see when this took place. To confirm that it does take place in 2014. I did do some research. Schools in the South still do this shit.
To this day.
To this day, have segregated proms in the sake of tradition,
Oh
which is
my
I know it doesn't compare because it wasn't the same, but immediately my brain went to The Prom, that Broadway musical / movie with Meryl Streep. And it was not necessarily a black and white segregated prom situation, but a queer student wanted to bring her girlfriend to prom. And that led to the school being like, fine, she can bring her girlfriend to prom, but she can't come to our prom then. So then like they kind of talked about how this is a thing. This happens all over the country. Even currently, 2023, schools are still having segregated proms. Queer proms have to be separated. Like this is a thing. Anyway, continue.
So we find out about the segregated proms, and the reason this comes up is because the character of Wendy, who's again Kenny's girlfriend, she is a white girl. She comes up with the great idea of, well, let's have a combined prom this year, and we can show the media that we can change and that we can be a good school, which we'll get into it, I'm sure. it's not coming from the right reasons from her.
Formative activism, period.
She's very much wants to be a white savior.
It's all
and which is
self-serving.
which is a very big
Yes.
theme with Wendy. So yeah, we come to that, and basically what it comes down to is they want to have a vote at the school of should they do this or should they not, and it wins that there should be a combined prom. But then also the students who are against having a combined prom, because bro, it's tradition. Come on, bro. They decide that they still want to have their own prom. So we are going to still have two proms. We're going to have a white prom and then a prom for everybody.
An all-together prom.
All together prom.
All together prom.
The all-together prom.
One in the bar and one in the country club.
Well, it was only one prom. It was the all-together prom, but all the white students and their rich parents planned a separate prom just for them. And then they were like, well, we wanted to invite everyone to our prom, but the country club wouldn't allow like people of color. How's that our fault?
No. It's the amount of people.
Oh, correct.
Oh, but what's her face had a wedding there of over 200 people.
Right.
Yeah, weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's crazy.
No, Steven, you're right. That is why. But like,
Yes,
that's not what.
Because then
think.
Callie, the sister again, she's like, is that the reason? Or is it because there's going to be Black people there?
Exactly.
And then Wendy and Jules' third friend that I don't remember her name, they're setting up the everyone prom, and they like there's a line set of like, let's just throw some shit together and go to our real one. Like, let's just do this quick and get over. Like, no one actually cares about this. And I was just like, oh my God, like even the ones running this prom are supposed to have good intentions. You guys don't even care about making it good.
Wendy says, no, we have to make it good because we have to put pictures of ourselves here on Instagram.
Exactly.
So it has to look good. We have to show them we care. Duh.
That's right.
We're going to post this.
So many of the members weren't even planning to go to that prom to begin with.
Wild.
I made this comparison that one girl in Dear Evan Hansen, she's like, oh, I knew Connor.
Yes,
like, he was in my English class. I miss him so much. Like to post and she got like a
she does the whole
scholarship or something.
campaign.
Because, she starts the campaign. I'm like, just clout chasing, just trying
And,
to
like,
put
she
something
never
on the
knew him.
resume.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Formative activism.
I did tab it near the end. She even has like that little revelation finally that she's like, should I do something without the benefit of myself? And then I think a few pages later still does something for the benefit of herself. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why are they not to survive?
Yeah.
Wendy girl.
I was going to say her character is also going through her own thing, but like everybody's going through their own thing. But like the fact of the matter is that she cannot put any of her own things aside to make a decision. Everything is completely self-serving.
Everything is no good deed.
And she also wasn't dating Kenny. She was like mothering him. She was like, "Babe, practice starts at 8. Here's a protein bar. We're gonna work out together."
She goes to his workouts.
Girl, this is not healthy.
Their relationship was a reason why I was like, Kenny, what the fuck are you doing, man? Come on. So I agree with the annoyance of Kenny in that regard, because he also like, especially while he was like still getting to know Maddy, he was like, I don't know how I feel about Wendy, but
he instantly fell in love with Maddy. Instantly
fell in love with Maddy.
It was an immediate connection.
Yeah.
And he's like, weird. I never feel like this with Wendy.
And they're like, yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, brother, like that's.
Oh, I think I just have a relation. So
What?
Sorry. I think that Kenny was with Wendy for the proximity to whiteness and just like his dad's orders of like, get in with them, basically like, oh, I have a white girlfriend, like whatever. And then Wendy's with him, obviously for the brownie points, like the same thing.
Wendy's with him to be like, I'm not racist. I have a black boyfriend.
Exactly. Just like the prom. So they both have their motivators.
I think she also was just like, oh, he's gonna be so successful, and all I have to do is just live at home.
Yes.
Like
literally, she had it all planned out to the T.
Yes. Honestly, in that regard, I applaud. She said he's gonna make millions and I'm gonna ride the coattails of that career for life.
I can't wait till I'm a housewife.
Yeah, and honestly, good for her.
Did you guys just say this her parents' situation?
Oh
no, we didn't get into that. You can.
I think that's part of it too, because it seems like her parents don't have any money and wasted it away, and so she's I think she's clinging on to that like sense of financial security that like Kenny could bring her.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, but basically it's like the bonfire and what's her name again?
Jules?
Jules.
Is it the bonfire?
Jules.
I thought it was like a pep rally at school.
Oh, pep rally.
Pep rally.
My bad.
It's fully at school. Whole school's there. Teachers are around. It's in the school gym.
Yeah.
Crazy bold of that.
Which I do have. I have a real life story to share after we talk about this.
Oh my god! Really? Oh no!
It's not. It's not me.
No.
Thanks for that disclaimer, Brody. But basically, Jules comes out with her boyfriend and like they're introduced as Maddy and her daddy. And she is fully blackface. What else happens there? My mouth was just, I was reading this on the train and this happened. I gasped and then I had to keep my mouth shut with my hand. And I had to read through my hands because I couldn't believe.
She mimics her or something. Like it wasn't just.
It's senior week, and all the seniors get to do a Halloween costume.
That's what it is.
Her Halloween costume with her boyfriend is Maddy
right.
and Maddy's dad. So nothing prompts it. Nothing prompts it.
That's what I thought. I was like, I don't think anything. It was just they found out that she was black, and now they wanted to ridicule her.
Yep. So all the seniors are in like harmless little slutty costumes, and then that girl and her boyfriend come out in blackface, or only she does.
If anyone has watched Chucky, this similar thing happens. But yeah.
Yeah, kind of.
This is like the first time we really see Kenny get mad in defense of Maddy, I think.
Yes.
Because he is like, what the fuck are you doing? And like very upset, understandably so. But I did get really annoyed because I believe he ends up getting in trouble as well, just in the situation. And they tell him to calm down. And I'm like, oh my God, you do not say that.
Yeah.
Okay, Brody, you sparked my interest. What?
Oh, I mean, it's really like not like an in-depth story. It's just that in my high school, we also did like a spirit week or whatever. And one of the days you get to dress up like Halloween costume, and someone fully came in blackface with a fake afro and didn't really get in much trouble.
And it was probably 2014.
Honestly, yeah, it was around that time. So I will say, and I grew up in Connecticut. I did not grow up in the South, but the representation of this kind of school definitely was very accurate.
And Jules wore a giant afro.
Yes.
So
that really brought me back.
Pretty close.
Because this is a podcast, you didn't see it, but all of our jaws did drop.
Yeah.
How could things be so horrific, but like realistic? Like these happen in our real life, not just a fictional book.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You want to believe it's just a caricature, but it's really not.
No, fully.
And her friends announce her. Her friend Kaylee announces, and here comes our final couple, Maddy Washington and her dad.
God, yeah.
So people weren't like, they obviously knew. That passed through many channels of people, and not one person said, maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, also, Jules knows or assumed that nothing would happen to her, and she's running this school. She has connections everywhere. I can do whatever I want.
So basically, this happens. Then it's posted all over.
We find out later, Callie, Kenny's sister.
Yeah,
it was leaked by an anonymous source. Someone took pictures of the rally.
Badass.
Yes.
Those pictures get leaked, and we find out later it was Kenny's little sister. And I actually just opened to the page where she tells Wendy it was her that she leaked them. And Wendy says, it was stupid. Jules didn't mean to hurt anyone, and there's no need to drag prom into it. Like, that's her priority.
She needs to shut the fuck up about prom.
Because she's thinking about her future. She needs to be
fucking priorities.
That's so
be
crazy.
Seen at prom with Kenny and be considered good and popular and great. That's all she's worried about.
I wanted to bash my head in whenever she talked.
Literally.
Something I'm thinking of now as we're talking about it, like the concept of the posting and just the internet being like a force in this book. Meanwhile, Maddy she reads books. She's never been on a computer. She doesn't have a phone to see all the stuff that's going on, all the news that's on her side. She doesn't even know.
That's so true. She's so sheltered.
Like low-key though, like thank God, because I feel like she would be cyberbullied so hard.
True.
Like, even,
But at least she would see that there's like an uproar about it,
right.
that people actually care that it's happening, but she didn't. Yeah. You're right.
I too, toward the beginning, was like, what year are we? And like, there's no way this is recent, but that too, the internet being a thing in 2014, like being used so frequently throughout the story as literally kind of a hero, just proves the point that it was 2014. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, because I think And this is moving the story forward. So Jules is in the principal's office getting in trouble for doing blackface. And her dad is there and very upset. And basically, the principal says that she's expelled.
She's basically expelled.
She can't go to the prom.
That's the only thing I think she can still do.
Because the prom's not through the school. So he doesn't have to say
exactly.
And she loses her college admission, I think.
I think that happens in the same scene because like the dad is fighting the principal
Yes.
on her being expelled, and then come to find out he gets a phone call that I forget, I think it was Texas A&M or something like that, dropped her admission because it got news coverage. And I that made me so happy. And that is like a real life thing that still happens.
Can I elevate that point?
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up what you figured out, Gabby. Jules says really, really, really early on. She's like, someone asked for like a condom or something, and she's like, yeah, like of course, like I can't have a pregnancy scare. I can't let a baby take away my chances of going to Texas A&M.
Yes.
And later to find out, she takes it away from herself.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
I was in a Starbucks listening to that scene. I was just like cackling in public because when the dad literally was like using his tool belt. He was like, you can't prove she did that. They were like, we have a video. They were like, but it's not this. And they were like, no, but we do. Like they had an answer for all of his like tools.
He was like, you guys can't do this. It's like, we already talked about it.
Well, he was like, I have friends on the board. They're like, they made the decision.
They actually were the ones to bring this up.
Yeah.
This is so satisfying.
It was very satisfying. She's like, but daddy, what do you mean?
Yes, it was so good.
Because everyone's like, yeah, dude, it was like racist. She was like, it was just a joke. It was just a joke.
No,
I was like,
no.
this bitch.
Yes, she literally says, I wasn't dressing up as a black person. I was just dressing up as Maddy. Like, she's like, I was mimicking Maddy. This isn't racism. I'm like, what? How delusional.
Yeah, I loved the part where like her dad, I think we might have just said how it's like, oh yeah, and he's like, I have friends on the board, and they're like, the board is the one that's like choosing for your daughter not to be here.
Yeah.
Like,
it was
you
just
have no
very
power.
satisfying in how that played out.
But did this man, like this grown man, really think that like he was going to be able to like get his daughter off?
100%.
Yes, he's a
He
rich
did.
white man. He's never been told no in his life.
Did you see how easy he did that? He's definitely done it before.
He has money and a race on his side.
And it talked about the principal basically being a spineless bastard too, who rolls over for anybody.
The only reason why this was even talked about and anything like that was because the photos got leaked. If that didn't happen, all of this would have been under the rug.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Brody's friend at school.
Yeah.
If you had taken a picture, you would have brought justice.
That's true. I don't think
Wow, bystander.
I don't know if there's
It's your fault. It's Maddie's fault. And Jules automatically is like, I cannot believe Maddie did this to me. I was like, girl, be for real.
No,
Be
she's
for real for a
crazy.
second.
yeah.
Crazy.
That was
Delusion.
wild.
But again, never told no.
And that, again, back to what I said before, like the internet and the modernity of it is the only thing. Like in the past, he would have just had someone on the board and there would have been no proof or whatever. But the people who have working brains in the rest of the United States were like, we're not letting this slide. And that was like, oh shit, this is recent. Like it kept reminding me.
That was the only thing that really anchored this to me thinking that it was recent, was the fact that like there was a public outcry for it.
Right.
That is so true. Yeah. If there was no video documentation, that would have been totally swept under the rug, and she would have been so fine.
And I think the Black Student Union was in the cafeteria too, protesting. They had like printed out that picture of her.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All because of cell phones.
They even said that the separate proms they've been doing for forever. They're like, now it's an issue. So it's like they've been doing this obviously for such a long time that they don't even think twice about it. They don't even think it's wrong.
And I think there was a part where I don't remember exactly when, but it was after they had decided to do an all-together prom where someone from the school board was like, yeah, just let them do it this year and then it'll go back to normal next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it just that shows even more that like if they could have, they would have chosen to not do anything. But since there was that like footage and pictures to hold them accountable more.
Now it's in the public eye.
Right, exactly.
What about Mrs. Morgan like calling class to talk about it? And she's like, we're gonna learn like why this is a problem. And all the kids are like, this is just our tradition. She's like, well, your traditions are racist, so they need to change.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yes, bitch, finally someone just say it, like call them
Yeah.
out.
But also, well, no, I was gonna say get her out of that town, save her, but like she needs to be the one teaching these.
Yeah, unfortunately, they need her.
Was she like a recent hire or something? Did she?
Yeah, she's not from there.
Mm,
I feel like, I don't know.
she's too cool for that.
I feel like we should switch gears a little bit to talk about Maddy's father.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be the last chunk of the book to cover, and then I want to do like fun stuff.
Yeah, because I don't want to focus on the awful characters. I mean, we're switching to
Talks
another
about the
awful
father.
character, but I mean, I want to focus more on Maddy's story and make sure that we're telling her story.
I will say yes, but because of that, and because we know the ending is coming, it allows us. The whole book is awful. Like, there's no positivity until
Yeah.
that ending, until she pops off. So I think that also allows us to. It's more palatable to read through because you know, like, oh, she's gonna kill everyone. Like, yeah, let them be racist to her, let them bully her. Like, they're all dead by the last page. So like, it's okay, I guess. But that's a good point. It's very bleak tone the whole time.
Yeah. And then we know that up front too, because I think the very first thing we get is the podcast years later talking about the incident. And they mentioned that like half the town was killed in this
Yes.
prom accident. So yeah, we know it's coming. While it was all awful, I was just like, I cannot wait for you to get yours. But including in that, we can talk about Thomas Washington, I believe was his name. Maddy's father, a white man who was stuck in the 1950s. We don't get a lot of his backstory at first, just that he is very religious. He is basically a white supremacist. He's the one that forced Maddy to pretend to be white her whole life. And back at home, he will force her to go into her prayer closet when she's bad, which is just a closet that he locks her in.
Yeah, but it's decorated.
With all these cutouts of these
Right.
white women with blue eyes slapped onto them,
Blonde hair. Yeah.
Yes. Of all the women that he thinks she should be.
The way when she does go into the closet, the casualty of it, it's happened to her so many times before, and it's so heartbreaking that she doesn't even have to say it outright for us to know that this is not a strange thing for her.
He makes her work at that store with all that racist imagery.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh yeah.
scary stuff.
Yeah. He owns an antique shop,
Mm.
classic, of course, which, yeah, has a lot of, I don't remember what they're called.
Minstrels.
What is it?
Yeah.
Very just exaggerated depictions of like Black people and Black culture.
We only think of her bullying in her high school years and all that, but like she was homeschooled until the incident when she runs outside and she's young, and then he's like, damn, the neighbor saw her, I gotta put her in school now. So to think that all her life until, or at least those little moments when she's in school, she's taught literally these blonde women with blue eyes is what you need to be, shut down all your blackness, like hide all this stuff her whole life. Like she's never once, except for the little dates with Kenny, had a good moment of happiness or positivity ever.
Yeah.
Off of that as well, he's also ingraining in her what it means to be an ideal woman.
Mm.
She's the one that cooks for him. She, you know, has to do all these very traditional women roles because, like I said earlier, like he's stuck in like this time period where like this is just how everything is. It's just very upsetting.
Even just like the shows he would watch and like have
Yeah.
her watch. They would have like TV dinners, watch like Leave It to Beaver and things like that. And he also like put her in clothes that he wanted as well, bringing it back to like all those like the 50s dresses.
There was a really, really sad line I tabbed, but I don't feel like finding right now. But she's like, she loves to cook and she cooks these really extravagant dinners. And she said a line, and I'm going to misquote it, but it was something like, I can cook him his favorite meal in the world and he's still not going to love me.
Oh,
And I was like,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah. And like all the times that she talks about him, like he's not even like looking at her or saying anything about the meal, but she's like, I know he liked it because he had thirds.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll never compliment me, but yeah, I know he liked it. He was enjoying it. It's like, damn, girl. Sad. Is there anything else really to say about the dad?
We don't really get to know about his backstory until closer to the end of the book.
Yeah.
Well, because it's the big reveal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just know that his mom like didn't like him.
His mom was really racist.
He really, really racist.
What's the thing?
So the backstory is that his mom ended up actually being the one with the powers to begin with. So she gets sick with cancer, and then they end up hiring someone to take care of her. And it happened to be a Black woman that he falls for.
Oh, yeah.
Talks about how she actually killed her husband. So his dad just like took one look at him and stopped his heart.
He was a reverend at a church, and he wanted to open the church up to
Mhm.
Black folks as well because their numbers were tanking.
So kills him dead. Yeah, so you basically find out that he knew the whole entire time that Maddy had that power within her and tried to flesh it out with the love of God, which obviously did not work. I think that's all that we really get from him. So either way, like, kick him to the curb. Let's talk about Maddy.
Yeah, I really want to get into Maddy because we get so much of her and Dana. You mentioned like we get very minimal like glimpses of her joy, but when she is joyful, like she is funny. She is like quick
Funny.
wit. She is like I like she got me chuckling so many times. I have this tab open. She's like on one of her first dates with Kenny, and they're sharing a milkshake or whatever at Dairy Queen. And she's looking at his bulging biceps, how smooth they must feel to touch. And then she like gets scared. She snatches the straw away. She sends the lustful thought away and promises God 15 more minutes of prayer later.
This
I was
poor
like,
girl.
oh my God. Like she was just so funny.
There's lines late. I think it was at prom or something, but she like teases Kenny and she like brings back stuff he said, and she's like, "I thought you something something," and I'm like, "Ooh!" She got like wit with her and spice. It was so fun.
Also, like one page later, he's like talking about his life, and she's like, "So your whole life's just football?" Like that sounds shitty. As if her whole life isn't like
Right.
her father. She's like, "Damn, that must suck for you."
Even through all this, she's anti-sports, and that's why I stand.
Truly, she said that mile. I'm not running it. Sorry.
Yeah.
What if I sweat?
No, literally.
I mean, she had different reasons for why she didn't want to sweat, but still,
But
I
still, a
stand.
queen.
Yeah, it's really great to get the moments of Maddy joy.
They were good. And then when she like claims her power, can we like start getting toward the ending now? Maddie starts to like learn about her powers and like really starts to hone in and find her strength and find how strong she actually really is. She like does a lot of research. She like lends all the books out from the library. I think she actually uses a computer.
Yes,
My
she does.
She
memory
does.
served me right. She
Mhm.
Googles something for the first time, and that was like mind blowing. Or I think she Googles videos of like
Yep.
Black women or
Mhm.
something, right?
Yeah. She starts to like look beyond what her dad and all of them have like taught her. Like she really like takes it into her own hands to like learn more.
Mhm.
I mean, something as simple as like the power plant in the town playing this alarm at the end of the day, and what that used to signify was that the Black workers better hurry up and get home, because if they're on the white side of town after, anything can happen because it's like a sundown town.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I like something as simple as that, and again, stuck in the sake of tradition of keeping this going, you know.
So, in addition to like researching about like her culture and things, she's also researching like kinetic. Like, why is she researching like special powers? She starts to learn about the zodiacs. Like, what prompted all that for her?
It's the second time I tab read, I think. She moves like a pen and she's like, oh shit, bitch, that's me. I
She's
want
in
to
her
learn more
room,
about this.
yeah.
And she
Yeah.
finds that notebook
And she
from her
finds the
mom and
notebook
Yes,
from her
goes to
mom at
bed.
some point.
Oh,
Yeah.
because she rises her bed, and then when she crashes
Mhm.
her bed down, a note falls out from under her mattress. Yes.
Yeah.
So when I was reading this, obviously I did not have much time. I did pick this up 2 days ago and I wanted to finish it before this. So I was reading this at top speed. So I was reading at 2.65, the fastest I've ever read in conjunction with listening.
Mhm.
And so just to paint the picture, it's dark in our living room. I'm like cuddling Gigi and I'm listening to this book. And this fucking jump scare scared me so much I cried. I
Fucking
She
words
did
for your
cry.
jump scare.
I said, Gabby, this is a YA horror novel. Be for real.
It's
She
words
cried,
on a
guys.
page.
I only had the audio in one ear and I have the surround sound thing. So it's like they're like when I hear audiobooks, it's like they're like talking in my skull. Just to point that out. And so if anyone is reading this and wants to follow along, it is on page 204, starting at the very end. No closet, Papa, please. And this is what I listened to.
No, not yet. No, no, no. Dark thoughts swirled around her, and the inside of her palm itched to strike back, but she resisted. No closet, Papa. Please, just let me finish telling you about him. We can hit her again. You dare defy me, child. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Ephesians 6:1. He pulled back to hit her again. But an unrecognizable voice bellowed deep from her belly. I said no. Her hand shot out.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even think my brain even caught on to that.
Really?
It's when Maddy first uses her powers on her dad and screams like, I said no at him, but the audio book does like a guttural scream, but Gabby listening to it on such a fast speed made it even worse.
Understand? Horrifying.
Gabby cried.
I cried. I
cried.
whipped the AirPod out of my ear, snapped because it was on my left side and SJ was on my left side. So I snapped my head. I was like, what was that? And I just started crying.
No way.
Because it really shocked me. It really did.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I'm reading Exquisite Corpses.
You need to do some grounding exercises.
Meanwhile,
That's
yeah, you're
wild.
reading your fucked up book. And I'm just like,
With no reaction, blank face.
Side note, the audiobook actor or actors were eating and the sound effects were amazing. We heard the bell tower ring and all this stuff. Crazy. So good.
interesting because set in 2014, but their ways are if they're back in like the 50s, 60s. So it felt like I'm listening to the radio in the 50s, 60s.
That's
And
so
they have
cool.
a southern drawl. That's wow.
Mhm.
The audiobook was well done.
If you need a good radio show, War of the Worlds.
Also, House of a Thousand Books.
Yes.
Yeah, but that was just really scary.
Yeah, so Gabby cried. So Maddy is like coming into her power. She's realizing how powerful she actually is. She like takes down Papa real fast. I don't think she kills him, at least not right now.
It describes it as him like being tied up by like strings, and he's
Yeah.
just like on the ground, unable to move, which is so sick.
Did my brain make this up? Does he shoot her and she stops the bullet? Did that happen?
He does shoot her, but she doesn't stop the bullet though. It like goes through her.
Yeah, it goes through her shoulder.
Yeah.
Really? I don't remember that.
Oh.
Just to set it up, they didn't she do the dress thing with Kenny, the color, and they arrived, they went on a few good dates, they're so happy to go, it's good vibes.
They're just really clicking.
Yeah. And then
They're like brother and sister.
I believe Kenny's the one to reveal it. He's like, girl, we're nominated. And she's like, huh?
Oh, when they show up to prom, well, we also, before they even get to prom, Jules is with this like delinquent boy. Who is Jules even with at that point?
She's dating this dude who's in college. That's all you need to know.
I don't even care. He's not relevant.
He won't be.
She won't let having a baby stop her from going to Texas A&M. Anyway, so she's with this delinquent boy, and she's like, Maddy Washington fucked up my life, aka she fucked up her own life. So she's like, I need to really fuck up hers, as if she hasn't already. So she's like, at prom, it'd be so funny if we like. They actually don't say what their plan is, which I thought was clever because obviously the audience knows. But they just buy white. They buy something. They don't even say white paint. They buy something at Jules's dad's hardware store, right?
She says, that's it. That's the perfect color paint. And we don't know what color.
Yeah, we don't know what it is. Yeah.
We assume red.
Of course, you assume red. Yeah.
Honestly, I did.
I think everybody.
Oh, I assumed black.
What?
Whoa.
That part made me question it because I assumed red, but then the boyfriend was like, "Are you sure this one?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like,
I was just like, it's YA, so maybe they didn't want to do like kill the pig a la Stephen King. So maybe like red paint was an easier, like more YA approach.
And then you look at the front cover and you're like, oh
yeah, exactly. So honestly, the white paint, like I gasped. I was like, oh no.
I thought
like,
I missed /red. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before they even get to prom, Jules and her boyfriend have a scheme going. They don't really give us the details, but again, It's canon. You know the Carrie prom. Maddy and Kenny coordinate their outfits. They're ready to go. I thought it was a sweet moment when Kenny was like, "What color is your dress? I need to buy like a matching whatever." And she's like, "I'm supposed to have a dress?" Like, it was just so genuine.
And then she was like, "What do I do with my hair?"
What do I do with my hair? Yeah,
Oh.
that was
And
that was
Callie
sweet
helped
moment
her out,
too.
right? She comes
Callie
around.
helped her out. Yeah.
I think Kenny's
Yeah,
sister
that was a
helps
great
her.
point.
Yeah.
That was a great scene.
So that was cute. And then they go to prom. They're there. They're at the all together prom. Everything's good. Wendy is not there. That's important to note. Wendy is home. All she did was put the prom on and take some Instagram pictures to post later. But obviously, she's not there because her boyfriend is with Maddy. So she's at home.
She is a little nervous because before this, someone spotted Kenny and Maddy at Dairy Queen.
And her and Jules had a big fallout. Anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, her and Jules had a big fight and they're not friends anymore.
Kenny asked Maddy to dance. And Maddy's like, "I don't know how to dance. I never danced ever in my life." And Kenny's like, "Don't worry, I'm going to lead. Like, we're going to have fun." So they're dancing on the dance floor. They're having a cute little moment. Maddy's so happy. And someone snaps a pic and sends it to Wendy, being like, "So your boyfriend is fully dating another girl. Like, how do you feel about that?" So Wendy's like, "No, no, no. I'm coming to prom." So Wendy's like, "I'm coming." Just to check on the prom, but also like what's going on. So that's what brings Wendy over, the picture of them dancing. And then after they're dancing, prom's going well, everyone's having a good time. It's time to vote for prom king and queen. And Maddy sees for the first time that her and Kenny are nominated to potentially win. And Kenny's like, "Of fucking course we were nominated. Like, I'm Troy Bolton over here. Like, yes, we were going to be nominated."
Literally.
And it kind of gets slipped in there. It wasn't really a big plot point, but one of Jules's friends rigged the ballad. Again, not too shocking to find it out. They rigged the ballad so that Kenny and Maddy will win, and Jules's scheme will come to fruition. And ultimately, that's what happens. So they win. Maddy and Kenny go up on stage, but it doesn't. How does that scene actually play out? Does someone like have it fresh enough in their brain? Because I feel like when I read it, it was a little different than how I thought it was going to happen.
There was like 2 thrones or something on the stage, and before, when Jules and her boyfriend had set up the paint, they had marked the spot above where the queen would be standing before she sat. Then Jules and her boyfriend, who were at the white prom, they snuck over before, so they're like backstage ready, and he had a drone.
Again, technology.
Yeah, interesting use of a drone. He uses that to knock over the paint, which takes a little bit, but we eventually find out it is white paint, not red, which was definitely very clever of the author to do that. And also it makes a lot of sense for Jules's character, because I think at one point she says like she wanted to be white.
She does. She does. And pause really quick, something else to mention, because I feel like we're about to like really line up our plot here, is the Black Student Union is protesting outside of the all white prom.
Yes.
And Miss Morgan is there like talking to the police officers, being like, "These are kids and this is a peaceful protest and it will stay that way." Like, right? Your boys are ready. Like, that's what's happening.
There's one police officer there who we get a tiny bit of backstory on, which is very, very clever as well, because Officer Ross, because this happens all the fucking time in this country, where this guy was let go from a different policing job for misconduct or whatever.
Yep.
And then he got hired.
With rave reviews, though, from
Right.
his old job. They're like, "Oh, we had to let him go, but he's such a great guy. Don't
Yeah,
worry."
yeah.
And I marked this down, but the officer that is in charge of Officer Ross is just like, "I don't want you to even touch something," which is like, okay, sounds like there's actually a good officer there who's like keeping it in check.
Good officer, in quotes.
And take it away right away. Because then within one paragraph, this officer is talking. He's like, "We don't want to harm anyone, blah, 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 blah."
Well, they keep saying, like, these are kids.
Yeah, but then the thing is, in the same sentence, in the same breath, he's just like, usually the black and white people, like, they keep to their side of town. Like, they're usually so good about this. Again, just like perpetuating
that it's their fault.
Yeah, he was like, "Really, everything's okay. Like, it's just this one little prom that we're all worried about. Everything's going to go back to normal afterwards. Like, you don't have to be trigger happy because everyone's going to fall back into place once this is over," basically. So it was like, for just the glimpse, you're like, yes, a good officer. And you're like, oh, no, just a really shitty one trying to act like he's good.
There are no good officers.
Maddy said a cab.
Yeah.
fully. But I feel like the next like kind of bit is on the heavier side with the whole police confrontation. So I want to like be mindful of how we discuss this little bit. I personally don't really feel like I have a say or a voice in any of this. So if anyone else really wants to talk about it, they sure can. Like picking right up after the whole Carrie moment.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should have said this at the beginning, but just taking a second to acknowledge that I'm a white person. A lot of us were white people on this call, and we obviously can't speak for a lot of what happens in this book and how that might feel. We can't relate to any of that. I just think that's important to highlight, and especially moving on to this next part, because we have something that we've seen a lot more recently, but it's always existed, of police brutality. And so when Maddy gets the paint dropped on her, Kenny and Maddy know obviously who it is. So they go right across the street to where the white prom is, at the country club where the protest is happening outside. Things are already getting tense, specifically from this officer Ross. And basically Kenny is saying, I need to get in there to the white prom, and the police officers won't let them in. And I think it's the chaos of the moment is really well written. Like you can really tell how things are really starting to escalate, and everyone kind of knows that and feels that. And basically they tell Kenny he needs to go home, whatever. Something happens where I think a crowd of people like push or something like that, and Kenny accidentally gets bumped into the officer. Complete accident. The officer sees this as an act of aggression, takes out his baton and beats Kenny pretty badly. Very much overkill. I mean, one hit was overkill, but pretty much beats him unconscious.
His sister's there to see it.
His sister sees it, right?
Everyone sees it.
The bottom of 343, Kenny lay unconscious at Maddy's feet, his face almost unrecognizable. His blood felt heavy on her skin.
Mm.
It just brought me to like the title, like
Weight of blood. Yeah.
the weight of blood.
Did not catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did Maddy do any damage at the Altogether prom before her and Kenny head over to the white prom?
Nope.
No, I think she was in such a confused state. It described her as being like very unaware of what was going on once the paint fell.
Here's the thing. Having read original Carrie right after, I'm sure we all know, the bucket accidentally drops and kills Tommy in the book / movie, but that doesn't happen at all in this. That's when I was like, huh? Is the author straying away because the bucket didn't fall? Kenny's alive. But that's why we go cross street, and that's when it happens. So it's like, that was at like, it makes it extra violent, and it's not, an accidental, but him getting hurt is when Carrie in that version is angry as fuck and gets it out on everyone. So it happens here then. That's what triggers Maddy.
Because Maddy thinks he's dead.
Yes.
He looks like as if he was beaten to death. And that's the last thing Maddy sees before she absolutely pops the fuck off.
We learn that not only Kenny, but also that the teacher also dies in this tragedy. And we learned that both Kenny and the teacher died previously inside the book with the interviews that we haven't even talked about yet. But yes, the interviews. And I forget where I was going with that, but there was a reason why I brought that up.
To be fair, though, they didn't find Kenny's body, so that he's not declared.
Oh, I remember now. I guess I have a question for you guys. Were you under the impression that Maddy might have killed Kenny in the line of fire? Because until the prom, until we obviously see what happens, but in the beginning, we're just like, oh, yep, a bunch of people died. Oh, yep, the teacher never got to live to tell the tale. I'm like, oh, Kenny must have like Maddy must have killed Kenny because Kenny was must have been in the wrong place, wrong time. Did that ever occur to you guys?
I thought that.
I don't remember, because I don't really remember what happens to Kenny, to be honest. I remember Callie and Wendy, who now is there, they actually help him get away from everything. And he wakes up. So I don't know if she actually killed him or if he dies.
So what she's asking is, when you were first reading this book, did you think that she was going to kill him?
Oh.
Do you think how he...
But how does Kenny die?
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
Does he not die? Okay.
It's open-ended.
Okay. Someone clarify this.
Yeah.
Wendy goes to the hospital because they're like, you're the last person to see him alive before his disappearance. And she was like, that's wrong. It says that I'm the last person who saw him alive because I signed in, but when I went to the unit, he wasn't there. So I didn't even see him.
So he survives the attack, they hospitalize him, and then he just
But can we trust Wendy's testimony? Because she also lies about Maddy. I mean, we haven't talked about the very, very ending, but
no, that's why. That's why it's open-ended.
So she probably helped him out too.
That's yeah.
so did Maddy take Kenny's body? Is this Wicked? Is this the ending of Wicked?
Is this the
Kenny
arrow?
is alive at the end. He wakes up in the hospital. So what probably happened was she helped him escape with Maddy.
Correct.
That's what I think happens.
That's exactly what I think.
So Kenny and Maddy are together.
The arrow.
It's Wicked!
It's Wicked.
I
It's
see
exactly Wicked.
Glinda, she finally is good after being a ditzy bobo the whole time.
They push Alphabet too far.
They pushed Alpha too far.
Her spells are the telekinesis.
Oh my God.
It's
Wendy is not a Glinda girl. Wendy sucks.
I did say no good deed earlier. No good deed in a
This
bad
is
sense.
Wicked.
Wendy does not deserve to be a Glinda girl.
Guys, we just made a
Wow.
discovery
But this is
in
Wicked.
Wicked's 20th
This is
anniversary
Wicked.
month. Oh my God.
It's really wicked because the original Carrie, they die. Kenny and Maddy and Carrie die. But in the retelling, aka Wicked from The Wizard of Oz, they secretly get revealed that they're alive and they say
Layers.
And
Ooh.
Elphaba's dad hates her just as much as
Yes,
Mr.
because
Washington
she's
hates
green.
Oh
Maddy.
my God.
Oh my
this
God,
is
it's
Wicked.
Because of her skin
Metaphor.
color. And he dies. He dies of shame. I wish Alpha
Guys.
killed the dad. Vanessa Rose killed the dad, but that's a different conversation.
Wow, we
But
just
either way, the dad still dies. And there's no mom in the picture. Both moms died in childbirth.
Oh my God.
Wow.
My mind is blowing up right now. This is Wicked.
It is.
Bring a Weight of Blood to Broadway using Steven Schwartz's music. I know Carrie's musical, but it flopped. Let's bring Weight of Blood, but giving the whole Wicked score.
Yeah.
Maddy sings Defying Gravity. Maddy does no good deed right when she murders her dad. Come on, that would be perfect.
Great.
Wait, when she murders her dad, is that where that should happen?
Or when she first uses her powers against her dad. That scene that scared you. That's the no good deed moment. Guys, I love this. Wow.
Anyways.
I had no idea this was Wicked.
We really diverged off the plot. It's too good. It's
Our
too good.
listeners better be into horror and theater. So sorry.
I honestly
Yeah.
feel like those go hand in hand with
They
interests, to be honest.
They do.
Same audience.
Depressed queers, books, and Wicked. Anyway, okay, good way to lighten the mood. I needed that Wicked after that deep topic. Before we move too far ahead, another question: how do you think, or what do you think the author? I don't know how to ask the question, but like putting that scene in obviously was a very deliberate choice. Like it's very modern. It's a very current thing that's going on. Not that it wasn't happening in 2014, but like when this book was published in 2022, I believe, like following the George Floyd, Black Lives Matter movement, it felt very resurged. How do you feel, or like, what was the author's, I don't know, like, why do you think she included that? Or like, how do you think she felt writing that scene into the story?
Well, I think it's interesting too, because I think throughout the story, it's kind of mentioned this other protest movement that's happening in the United States too. And I don't remember what it was called exactly. It's not Black Lives Matter, but it was something similar.
Oh, Black Life, Black Pride, or
BLP.
Yeah, BLP.
BLP.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was what Kylie. That was
The sister.
a sister's big thing.
Yeah.
She was like reading all those James Baldwin books. Well,
Yeah.
actually, technically, Kenny was too, and was embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that came up a lot when we were like with Kylie.
I think it's Callie, Kali.
Yeah. That's what they say in the other book. I'm thinking of that question, and I think I see it as whenever I read YA or high school based books, I see it as a metaphor for America. So like, you know, the head jock of the school is like businessmen in America, and like, you know what I'm saying? So I saw this as metaphorical for high school being America, and then
the police getting involved and social media and America getting involved is just like taking it up the level of like even your star token Black person in your high school is still gonna get police brutalized, you know?
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, to other people,
It doesn't
I don't
matter.
care how small of a pond he's from, but to the eyes of someone of an outsider, he's just a Black kid and
Right.
will be treated as such.
Mhm.
Because they're like, you don't know? Like, don't you know who that is? He's like, no.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
to him, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. All he's seeing
Yeah,
is
all the other
him.
police officers freak out because they know, like, and again, not, my words are gonna get jumbled, but what message does that send now to the not star athlete, like kids of color in the town? Like, if they had no problem killing someone who was really respected, what would they do to the people they don't even respect in the first place?
Yeah.
I think Maddy
exactly.
says it. I tabbed it at one point, but Maddy has like a throwaway line that I was like, oh my God. She says it before she gets outed. She says, if this is how they treat me thinking I'm white, how would they treat me if they found out I was Black?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh.
damn.
I found this scene really similar to like the story that I heard about Miles Davis when he was like at his height of like fame. Of he was in between sets at a club in New York City that he was playing at, headlining at. Went outside for a smoke or something, and a police officer who didn't know who he was, not that it even really matters who he was, came up and was like, "You can't stand here," whatever, all this stuff, and he actually beat him up pretty badly. And the same sort of thing happened where people were coming after and was like, "Do you know who that is?" Like, and yeah, it's like nobody is safe first and foremost from police, and at the same time, like it's sad to read between those lines of what that even means for people who aren't known,
Right.
because people aren't going to be like, do you know who that is? Like those people will
Mhm.
just be like, yeah, whatever.
He worked so hard to assimilate and earn their respect, and
So it didn't matter.
Right.
yeah, it was so I think that scene was so necessary. If the bucket just dropped and he was gone, I would have still been like, okay, whatever. But no, that
Mhm.
added a layer of like, damn. And obviously she's gonna be mad, extra mad at like this blatant racist violent act that she just witnessed, and that's obviously gonna warrant her to go bat shit. A lot more than just the guy she had a crush on got hit by a bucket, you know?
Mhm.
I do have a memory. I do have a memory now that I was reading it, and once the whole Carrie moment happens and she doesn't immediately react, I was like, wait, they're leaving? Like, that's not how this
Mhm.
happens. Like, what? Like,
Mm.
Also great for retelling. Like, we don't want the same exact play-by-play. Like, have us on our toes and whatever. So yeah, it was
yeah.
a double win. It was like add a scene that's necessary, but also like we're confused.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we want to keep moving, because right after Kenny,
You mean on hour 3?
Yeah, fully.
Let's keep going.
yeah, so Kenny gets beaten by the police officer, and so we're already in a scene of chaos, and what happens next, I think this scene will always stick out in my mind. All the cars and specifically police cruisers that are around, just lift off of the ground. Everyone's freaking the fuck out. And then they just come crashing down on a lot of people who are just standing there, including we get a wonderful, it's just a little tiny thing. You see Officer Ross's head just rolling by after a car decapitated that fucker, which is awesome. Besides a lot of other people dying, and the scene becomes even more chaotic.
The teacher's brain leaks onto the
Yeah.
gravel.
So Maddie's like trying to get back home. She crosses the tracks, get her foot caught on the tracks, and the teacher is like trying to like, Maddie, wait, like try to calm her down. And she stops the train as it's coming towards her, and part of the train decapitates
she derails a fucking train onto everybody.
Does Maddy make it into the white prom?
She does, actually, before the train, I believe.
Oh, right.
She enters the white prom. After all the cars come crashing down, people are dead, people are injured, screaming. The people who are okay are most likely either running for their lives or trying to help those who are hurt. And so while this is all unfolding, Maddy just walks right in to the white prom. And we don't right away get what happens in there, but we can go there, because then we get testimony from somebody who was inside. They got stuck in the bathroom and watched Maddy walk in there. And I don't remember the exact, like, the satisfying details of what she does to everybody,
Oh,
but
I remember one of them. So
please go.
the third friend that we keep on talking about, so it's Jules, Wendy, and Kaylee. That's the Kaylee.
Kaylee.
Who is one of the people that rigged the
Mhm.
prom ballots, takes a chair and rams it straight through her eye. And I was like, yes.
Hell yeah. I don't remember exactly what happens to Jules.
Jules, her arm.
Oh, her
loses an
arm gets cut.
That's
That is
it.
that is the saddest part, because she does sadly survive, we find out.
No, that's the best part. A lifelong agony. She did not get the easy way out.
True.
I guess.
And
I
she's
don't
still
know.
not going to college.
It's just the fact that she still breathes annoys me.
Yeah.
The fact that she still
Yeah.
has words that can come out of her mouth that people can listen to annoys me.
Yeah, I wish she like completely incapacitated her. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think especially because I think at the end she's still like, Maddy did all this, like,
Mm-hmm.
still, like, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been one thing if like maybe she learned a lesson, but she clearly didn't.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, so Maddy goes home, confronts her dad, and her dad is already ready to kill her, because as soon as she has her big outburst after what happened to Kenny, all the shit in the town starts going haywire. All the phones are dead. You hear the siren. And so the dad's like, okay, yep, this is it. So he plans to kill her.
Actually, at the bottom of page 359, we hear him say, over the years, he considered all the ways he would kill her. So many times he had left her in a crib to starve or in fast filling bathtubs. He's wanted to kill his daughter since
He's wanted to kill her
beginning.
so much.
Because he knew that power was going to come and get him. He literally was like, she is too strong and one day she's going to get me.
I just could not believe that. Over the years, he considered all the ways he would kill her.
Yeah, the fast filling tub, I think, is that what it says? Something like
Yeah.
that. Like, ugh. Yeah, but tries to shoot her, shoots her arm or shoulder, and then ends up turning the gun on himself and killing himself. So then Maddy then grieves over her father when Wendy walks through. Wendy sees everything and then has a moment of revelation.
Way too late.
Way too late. And is like, you know what? Maybe I should do something that's not selfish. Maybe I should think of the other person for a change. Because like even then she's just like, how can I be the savior in this situation?
I'm looking at that page, and she literally says, and I quote, she could be the town's hero. She could write op-eds and appear on morning talk shows, maybe even land herself a book deal if she saves everyone and lives to talk about it. She's like, I would be the hero.
Oh my God.
This would be amazing for me.
No way she still thought about herself.
That's on page 384.
Oh, I have that too.
We have this much of the book left.
Everyone in town is dead.
Still thinking about how she's going to benefit from this. She's like, I could finally go to college. Like, girl.
I could get a book deal.
Yeah, it is insane that they have, what, 20 pages left of the book, of a 406-page book, and it takes you 386 pages to figure out that maybe you should do something for another person.
Yeah.
She walks into Maddy's dad's dead body, and immediately, that's when you just said she's doing it for her own bad reasons, but she gathers Maddy. She's like, clean your shit, go here, like they cannot catch you. And like that's the one thing of like, okay, she saved Maddy from like jail.
Here, put on my jeans. We're gonna switch clothes.
Yeah.
And you're gonna drive away.
And she also says that Kenny's alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's like, he's not dead. I know you think he's dead. He's not. So you can calm down.
Yeah,
Stop
okay.
killing everyone, and we're gonna be good here.
Yeah, levels her for a second.
Yeah.
She ate that one thing.
She did.
I mean, we kind of already talked about that very end scene. It ends with the hospital, and then the final interview is Wendy's interview of. We haven't really talked about the podcast. We can briefly mention that right at the very end. But basically, Wendy's getting interviewed because she's one of the sole survivors of the whole event. And people are like, you were seen on the night or 24 hours of that night, like at a bus stop, like 2 hours away. Why'd you drive 2 hours away? Where were you going? Who were you with? Any chance you saw Maddy along the way? And she's like, no. I think she says, like, I just went for a drive or something. Like, she like, kind of brushes it off. And they're like, so you have no idea where she is? And she's like, no. Like, I don't. But it kind of gets revealed that she does know where she is, and Maddy is maybe most likely going to find her mom, who lives in South Carolina, right?
With possibly Kenny.
With possibly Kenny.
I'm not sure if it was true, but I think when she was researching her mom, she saw a picture of witches and was like, there she is, my mom. And I was like, girl, are you sure about that? She points at a random lady and she's like, that's her, I know it. I'm like, okay.
I thought it more of the sense of her saying like my mom has like the essence of like, because it's like, because they're witches, I think, in the context of the book or something.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, my mom's a witch.
Her dad calls her a witch.
I did think the same thing, Dan, just because she quite literally is so just stumped pop culturally.
Yeah.
That's
Like-
my mom.
There she is.
So she probably really, I agree. I think she really did look at that and think, are you my mother?
But I do also think that this story also is capped so well. So there is a podcast that's going on throughout this book and is audibly very nice to listen to because it's just like they have the theme every single time. It's just like
Yeah.
episode 10, blah, blah, blah.
Maddie did.
Yeah, Maddie did it, where
Yeah.
the Australian interviewee,
Anya King, get her name right.
Tanya K, calls out the main guy and it's just like, you are part of the problem. You see that, right? Can you like quote the book?
Yeah, I have it right here. Yeah, exactly what Gabby's saying. There's like this podcast that's kind of running through. So not to continue talking about Carrie, but the original Carrie novel is a mixed media story. You're only reading through interviews and police reports, and that model was kind of adapted into this retelling, which I thought was cool and a good, again, nod to the original. So we're following this podcast, very modern, very 2014, of these people just discussing the Maddy phenomenon. Like, was she actually magical? What actually happened? Why did all those people die? Who actually knows? And the female podcaster, Tanya, she says, she kind of like just dives into this whole narrative. And she's like, let's say she is alive. Let's pretend she actually is. She survived this whole thing. And she says, instead of holding the community at large accountable for their actions, everyone has continued to place the blame on their greatest victim, creating a monster out of a young girl and using her legacy as a scapegoat to avoid self-reflection. The title of this very podcast is called Maddy Did It. Shows a lack of understanding of the consequences of one's actions. To me, Maddy didn't do anything. So whether she was a witch or not, alive or not, it is inconsequential to the larger issue at hand.
Yup.
No, I loved that. That was a mic drop. That was awesome.
Yup.
Yeah, perfect. Because they're so right. And then she even says later, I thought this was funny. She says, Maddy will always be the villain in people's eyes because people want to see the truth, but seeing the truth requires comprehension. And comprehension is not exactly mastered by the citizens of this country.
I
I
chuckled at that.
And
Yeah.
I said, yup.
I think I actually threw back my head and went, ha ha ha.
Yup.
She made like a couple jabs at like America throughout the book.
yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, Americans and their loopholes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, now thinking of it, like kind of to summarize everything, you can whittle it down to the smallest instance of like Jules did blackface and lost her college and was blaming Maddy, saying, Maddy did this to me. Oh my God. But no, you're reaping the results of your actions. And Maddie's like his character in this. And so that's true for everything. Like the police brutality, like the whole town getting murdered is not Maddie's doing. It's the mistreatment that led up to her explosion that is the real villain. So it's like,
Mhm.
that's just the whole book is just small increments of that and then just builds up to like everyone's dead. And up, like you just said, up until the last interview, the last page, it's still exploiting Maddy, not getting to the root issue of like, why did she explode? Why did this happen? They're all still in all these interviews blaming her and lying and saying all this shit. So I guess the one good thing Wendy did was let her live in peace and keep that secret for her, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other closing thoughts?
SJ, you should ask your question now that it's the end.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, my question was silly. It was really just who did you hate the most in the book?
I was gonna ask similar, who's worse, Jules or Wendy? Like, is the blatant obvious racism worse, or is it the subtle only caring about yourself and being colorblind worse, you know?
I feel weird choosing which person's worse.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
what I said. I was like, I would off them both. Like, don't give me
Yeah.
the choice. But I do get it where it's just like, would you want someone to be just like outwardly hateful or to disguise them as being someone who's good, but who secretly
Right.
has their own agenda behind everything
Yeah.
that they're doing?
I think Wendy, at least there's obviously room for growth. I think we're supposed to hate Jules. She's supposed to be the character that we hate so much because she's just so blatantly racist and just an all-around horrible person that, like, of course, I think she's worse. I think she's the worst character.
Avi, yeah.
I think Wendy had a lot of faults also that weren't as obvious. I think there's just room for Wendy to become better, whereas Jules, I think, is so oblivious to like anything that she does is wrong. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it shows that maybe with someone like Wendy, there is growth. There's things that she could learn, but I think it shows how hurtful, because I think a lot of white people fall into the Wendy category. And I think it shows, even though you think you're doing something good, you're still being just as hurtful as someone like a Jules, whether it's intentional or not.
That's a really, really good way to put it. I mean, we're sitting here and all the things that Jules has done really does happen, but it's like for readers like us, we read these and we're like, this is so blatant, this is so obvious. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people, whether they know it or not, probably follow Wendy's line of being a white savior without maybe even realizing that that's what they're doing.
Right.
And I think a big part of Wendy's character too was like when there was any conflict with Jules or something, Wendy was very much like, no, like it's okay. Like what you did was wrong, but like we can move from this and like everything can still be okay. Like still trying to make it like everyone can still just get along.
Ignoring the issue.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think happens with a lot of people as well.
Basically just going like, it's not that bad, guys. We can fix it. Like it's
right.
That was just a little bum.
I think it's Wendy. Or maybe it's Jules. I truly don't remember anymore. But we get the classic, like, we have black neighbors. My best friend is black. Your boyfriend's black. I was like,
correct. I think Jules says that when they're
fighting.
I think it's after the blackface. Yeah, and they're like, that was racist. And she's like, no, I was just making fun of Maddy. Like, I have black friends. And
it
was just a joke.
Oh my God. I'm like, the amount of times I feel like I've heard that line specifically, especially when talking about like movies and books and media about like race, the classic like thing that the white person would say, like, oh, we have black friends.
Yeah, I think it's so important to include something like Wendy, where it's like someone who reads that might think those thoughts, and then you realize why that's bad as you're reading. Like if you're ignorant to why that's bad, I guess.
Exactly.
I think it's important to also note that like these are young kids. Like they are high schoolers. They are so confined to their small town way of thinking. Like I like to think, again, I wasn't like the biggest Wendy fan, but like I like to think Wendy does go to college and like maybe she meets people and like opens her mind and has some self growth and like sees how the world is truly outside of her small town. And like it's a YA book, so like these characters are so young and so impressionable to their environment, and we got all the town's history. Like they grew up in a awful environment. So I would like to think that there is room for change, and that change will happen as they continue to like get older and see the real world and have real lived experience and just become better people. Everyone's going to college except Jules. So
except the ones that died.
Exactly. Yeah. Like people are not born racist. They're taught that, and they were taught that from their environment and their parents in town.
Again, I'm still mad that Jules didn't die.
I know.
Every time we read a book, Gabby's wishing for someone to die. Literally every time.
Dying was an easy way out, though. Dan was right. No one's going to college because the whole town is Ted, but like Jules is gonna stay there stuck and like see all these people like live their dreams, and like she can't ever do any of that. That video will follow her for life.
So sad.
Aww. Oh, it
was a sarcastic
mistake. I thought you were really being empathetic for a second.
Poor Jules.
Poor
Jules. It was Maddy's fault. Maddy ruined
Maddy's
her life.
fault, right, guys?
Whoa. She can't hold her phone. Poor girl.
She has a left hand.
No, she didn't get let off easy.
All right. Shall we get into ratings and reviews and wrap up this discussion?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So it might come as a surprise. I gave this book a 5.
Wow.
No, I did. And It truly deserves a 5, in my opinion. I think that it's been a few years since I've read Carrie. And, I was like, maybe I will read Carrie after I read this, but I don't really feel that I need to. I think that this book did absolutely wonderful job with the story. And I think that it gave it a lot of modern day elements, which are things that are really important. And at the same time, I think gave it more of like a realistic kind of lens to see these characters through. And like you mentioned earlier, Stephen, like all the horror references, I didn't catch all of them, but I caught a lot of them and I really did appreciate all of that. And I think I really, really enjoyed the story. I mean, I read it in like 3 days or so because I was just very much hooked. So 5.
I will say that I'm not sure if I've read a retelling before. I'm not sure, but
You just read a retelling.
Oh yeah,
Comfort Me with Apples.
oh yes, yes, yes.
But
fuck.
you read this first,
Yep.
though, right?
I did read this first, yeah.
Oh, you did.
I'm just saying that to say I assumed that when I was judging a retelling, I would say not lazy writing, but like a lot of the retellings you hear are like fairy tale, like it's the same story, you're just adding new characters. Like, what did this add? So when I read this and then read Carrie immediately after, still enjoyed Carrie, but I was just like, damn, like everything added really added to the story, like made it 10 times more horrific, which is what it is. And if I'm talking to someone who hasn't read either, I would recommend this first.
Oh,
Yeah, it just streamlined it so well and added what needed to be added. So with that, I give my first 5 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
The world that we live in right now is full of retellings and remakes for some reason,
And reboots.
and reboots. And this was a good one.
No, like very good one. Yeah.
I was also a 5 out of 5.
Wow, Steph, I feel like you're a harsh critic sometimes.
Is this our first 5 for you?
Bunny was a 5 for me.
Debbie!
No, I gave this a 5 out of 5. It just made me feel all the feelings. I was angry. I gasped, audibly gasped many times. I felt like I wasn't reading, which I enjoy. I just like it was just very entertaining. I would love to read more of Tiffany Jackson's books personally. Yeah, I loved it.
I give this a 4 out of 5, to be honest. I am saying that because closing this book still felt sour about both Jules and Wendy still being alive. I am going to be very honest about that. I think to me, my anger that they took out of me was just so deep that the fact that they continue to live on even fictionally, maybe 4 to 5 also because my theory wasn't true, but
That's your own fault.
Gabby said I'm doffing a star because she wrote the better book.
But yeah, no, still absolutely loved it. And yes, I would love to read more from this author. Would read again. I mean, I tabbed the hell out of it. I thought it was great.
Mhm.
Also, that forward and afterward, both of them, very funny and very heartwarming.
Yeah, I also gave it a 4 out of 5. I really liked it, all the same reasons you all did. I thought it was a great retelling. I love Carrie, obviously, Stephen King fan, loved the movie, and yep, was a little skeptical. I was like, okay, I know the story. I don't know what is gonna surprise me. I don't know how this is gonna be different from the original and like make its own, like, be its own thing that's not just like following in Carrie's shadow. And I think it did just that. It went even beyond my expectations. It was relevant, it was current.
Mhm.
I loved the mixed media approach. I also did a in tandem audiobook, physical book experience, and the audiobook was so well produced. I think
So good.
that really amplified my enjoyment of it. The story was like really palatable. I think that was due to like it being maybe catered towards a younger audience, but I still stand by that it felt very mature and all the themes were like, as a 26-year-old man, I do not feel like this book was like I was like above this book in any way. Very much was like speaking to me, and it was like my language, which I appreciated. I don't really know what's keeping it from a 5. Maybe just the fact that like I don't really know. I can't really say. Just upon finishing the book, I enjoyed it. It felt like a 4. Even this conversation validated all of that, and I'm happy to like think about that. This might be someone's like first horror novel. Like, what a really powerful, awesome
Yeah.
introduction to horror that some like high schooler somewhere might pick up and read. So I think that's freaking cool.
I think this being a YA is really cool for sure.
Needed, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been very interested to have read this when I was in high school, or because the small towner, I think this wasn't totally out of things that I've known in life growing up in small white Vermont.
Yeah. Well, before we depart this evening, our next read, we are tackling Slewfoot by author Brom. Has anyone started reading? No, I'm not going to ask that question. We can't get into it. Next month, we're going to be reading Slewfoot by Brom. This is our next month's pick. I think it's going to give all the spooky vibes, real Halloween-y, if you catch my drift. It's about witches, about monsters, and I think it's going to be a really good time. It's illustrated, it looks really cool and badass, and I'm really excited to start reading Slewfoot.
Which I will say before, real quick, takes place in Connecticut, which is where I'm from.
Ooh.
Oh.
So is it going to be more blackface?
Oh, no. Wait, I'm just realizing this author should be named Broom.
Broom.
Yeah, it's a pen name.
It should have been Broom.
The Witchery, duh. Anyway, okay, Brody, hit us with the outro.
Thank you all for listening. As always, we really appreciate you. And we hope that you are able to check out The Weight of Blood. And as we said before, if you want to read along with us before our next discussion, we will be talking about Slewfoot by Brom. Thanks for listening and spooky reading.